The earth swallowed them whole, and it never gave them back. 5,000 men, full armor, battle standards, the golden eagle of an imperial legion catching what little grey light this country was willing to offer. They marched in the rhythm that had built the known world, left, right, and the mud of northern Britain received each step with the wet, possessive sound of something that had been waiting a very long time for exactly this wait. Behind them, civilization, the ordered streets of Iberacum, the smell of military bread and heated stone, the geometry of a world that Rome had arranged by force and law to make sense. Ahead of them, nothing that made sense at all. This is not a story about a battle. There was no battle. There was no final dispatch, no wounded survivor, no carved stone recording the manner of an ending. There was only a legion marching north, and then, where the record should continue, a silence so complete it has lasted 2,000 years. This is the story of the IXth Hispana, and this is the story of how 5,000 soldiers walked into the Scottish Islands and became a question that history has never answered.
Do not make the mistake of imagining them as young men on their first campaign. That era cost you everything that matters about what followed. The Legio IX Hispana had been fighting since before most of the men in it were born. Their battle honors began in Spain, where the Legion earned its name in campaigns so distant they were already become legend by the time of the northern posting. They had marched through Africa, they had moved through Gaul, they had crossed into Britain with Claudius's invasion force in 43 AD and spent the following decades doing what Roman legions did when an empire needed an island made docile, the grinding, unglamorous, necessary work of occupation. When Boudicca's revolt tore through eastern Britain in 60 AD, burning cities, killing tens of thousands, coming within a margin's distance of ending the Roman project in Britain entirely, it was the Ninth that marched to meet her. They walked into an ambush that destroyed a significant portion of their strength and left their survivors retreating through hostile territory in the dark. They were rebuilt, reinforced, returned to the line, because that is what the Ninth did, because that is what the Ninth had always done. By the time they were posted to the northern frontier in the early 2nd century, the IXth Hispana carried a century of accumulated iron in their bones. These were not soldiers waiting to prove themselves. These were men who had already proven everything multiple times, on multiple continents, against multiple enemies who believed each in their turn that Rome could be stopped. None of them had been right. The Ninth had made sure of it. They felt marching north like permanence itself moving through the landscape. They felt like inevitability. They were wrong, but they did not know that yet. Imagine a soldier, call him Marcus, a veteran optio from somewhere warm, Hispania perhaps, or the southern coast of Gaul, a man in his early 30s with the particular kind of face that years of outdoor campaigning produces, weathered, watchful, economical in its expressions, a man who has slept in the rain on 4 different frontiers and has learned to carry his fears the way he carries his pack, efficiently, without complaint, distributed so evenly across his body that no single point shows the strain. Marcus has fought men before. He knows what that looks like. He knows the visual grammar of an enemy, the formations, the weapons, the moment before contact when training takes over and the individual dissolves into the collective, and the collective becomes something that can survive almost anything. What the Highlands offered Marcus was something his entire military education had not prepared him for. The enemy was not visible. The enemy was the forest. The enemy was the particular quality of silence that settles between the trees when something in the trees is watching and has decided not to reveal itself yet. It was the patrol that left at dawn and was found at midday, not all of it, and not in any way that invited clinical assessment. It was the sentry who had been at his post an hour ago and was simply no longer there. No sound, no sign, nothing but the cold air where a man had been standing. The smell of wet wool, the bite of cold bronze against the palm, the sound of wind moving through old pines, and the knowledge, always present, always unverifiable, that something was moving with it. This was the world north of the Staingate. This was the country the Caledonians had spent generations learning to weaponize. The Pictish and Caledonian tribes that waited in the highlands north of Rome's frontier were not the disorganized savages that Roman historians, comfortable, warm, employed by the empire whose reputation they were managing, described in their accounts. They were something considerably more dangerous than that. They were an intelligent, adaptive, patient military culture that had been watching Rome advance for decades and had drawn the correct conclusions about how to fight it. Rome's power rested on certain foundations: open ground, disciplined formation, the ability to bring superior equipment and training to bear in engagements where those qualities could express themselves fully. The Caledonians understood this the way a predator understands the capabilities of its prey. They did not fight on open ground. They did not offer the pitched battle that Roman tactical doctrine was designed to win. They offered instead the forest, the fog, the hillside ambush, the sudden violent contact that was over before a response could be organized, the disappearance back into terrain that swallowed them completely as it would eventually swallow the legions sent to subdue them. This was warfare designed not merely to kill soldiers, but to kill certainty. The particular Roman certainty, deep, structural, almost theological, that said Rome would always adapt, always return, always prevail. The Highlands existed in a military sense as a machine for dismantling that certainty one ambush at a time, one missing patrol at a time, one night of watching the tree line and finding nothing, and knowing with the cold conviction of long experience that the nothing was watching back. Somewhere around 117 AD, the IXth Hispana marched north into that machine, and the machine did not return them. The silence that follows is not a dramatic silence. That is the first and most important thing to understand about it. It is not the silence of a great battle whose echoes were heard across the empire. It is not the silence of a catastrophe. Rome had those, and they generated records and eyewitness accounts and the kind of institutional trauma that gets written down because writing it down is the only way to process it. This silence is administrative, bureaucratic, the silence of a name that simply stops appearing on rosters. The IXth Hispana is referenced in imperial records up to a certain point, inscriptions in Iboracum, building dedications, the standard administrative paper trail of an active legion going about its business in Roman Britain, and then nothing. No transfer order, no decommissioning document, no record of what happened to their eagle, their standards, the gold and silver of their regimental treasury. No name on any subsequent posting list, on any supply requisition, on all of the 10,000 documents that the Roman military generated as naturally as it breathed. An empty space where a legion used to be. 5,000 men gone. History will not allow a silence this complete to remain unfilled, and so the theories have accumulated across 20 centuries with the desperate energy of explanation reaching into a void. The massacre theory is the most dramatic, and drama should make us careful. A single catastrophic ambush, a Highland Valley, a Caledonian confederation that had planned and waited and struck with a totality that left no survivor to carry word south. Possible. The geography supports it. The military culture of the Caledonians supports it. But a victory of that scale would have required a silence so absolute, so collectively maintained across thousands of warriors in decades of subsequent history, that it strains the imagination almost as much as the disappearance itself.
There are quieter possibilities. The legion may have been transferred, reassigned to another frontier, dispersed, absorbed into other units through the administrative reshuffling that Rome performed without sentiment and sometimes without adequate record-keeping. The absence from British records may not be an ending. It may be simply a relocation that no one thought significant enough to document clearly. And then there is the third possibility, the one that requires no single dramatic moment because it has no single dramatic moment. A slow dissolution, a legion ground down across months and years of attritional warfare in country that killed not in the clean arithmetic of pitched battle, but in the grinding accumulation of ambush and cold and disease and the psychological erosion of fighting an enemy who could not be defeated by the methods available. A unit that diminished post by post and patrol by patrol until what remained was too small to constitute a legion and was folded into other units so quietly that no record of the ending was made because the ending itself had been so gradual to identify as an ending while it was happening. Rome had a way of not recording its failures. The empire's historians, in the end, were the empire's employees. What remains of the IX Hispana fits in the palm of a hand. Stone inscriptions, a few funerary markers, the archaeological layer of their presence in Iberacum, present and then absent, a stratum of occupation that stops without explanation and is replaced by a different layer that does not mention them. Somewhere in the ground of northern Britain, beneath fields ploughed and rained on by 2,000 years of people who never knew what lay beneath their feet, the physical remains of 5,000 lives are waiting. Bronze fittings, iron nails from sandals, the slow, patient archaeology of things that do not decay. And somewhere, perhaps, the aquila, the golden eagle on its pole,
the sacred object that a Roman legion would die before surrendering, the thing that made a unit Roman in the most essential and irreducible sense. It rests in the earth somewhere if it was never recovered, pressed down by 2,000 years of soil and rain and the indifferent weight of passing time, facing upward, staring at a sky it no longer belongs to. No one is coming for it. Every empire believes with total and unexamined conviction that it is the permanent condition of the world. This is not arrogance, it is the natural logic of sufficient power maintained across sufficient time. Rome had been replacing local certainties with Roman ones for so long that the process had begun to feel geological, not something happening, but something that had happened irreversibly, like the formation of mountains or the carving of river valleys. The North did not accept this. The highlands beyond the frontier were older than Rome's story and colder than Rome's ambitions, and they waited with the patience of geography for the story to exhaust itself against them. 5,000 men walked into that landscape carrying the full weight of the known world at their backs. They carried the belief, earned across a century of victories, that what they represented would outlast anything it encountered. And the landscape received them the way it receives everything that passes through it, without ceremony, without record, without the mercy of an ending that can be understood. The IX Hispana did not come back. Somewhere between the last inscription and the first silence, 5,000 men became a question, and the earth, as it always does, kept its answer.